Victoria Ashford threw her champagne glass against the hull of her $45 million yacht. Glass shattered. Silence fell across the Miami marina. "Three of you," she said, her voice cutting through the salt air. "Three so-called experts, and not one can tell me why this engine won't start." A black man stepped forward from the dock. Tall, weathered hands, coveralls stained with decades of honest work. Victoria laughed, cold, cruel. "You fine. Fix this engine by morning and I'll make you a millionaire. Deal." Marcus Webb looked at her for 5 seconds. Then he said, "Deal." Neither of them knew that word would save a life and destroy everything Victoria thought she wanted. Comment your city below. Let me know how far this story travels. The marina fell silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence. The kind that happens when someone walks into a room and everyone holds their breath. Victoria Ashford stood on the deck of the Sovereign, her $45 million Benetti yacht, and stared at the 3 marine engineers like they'd personally insulted her grandmother. "Say that again," she said. The lead engineer, a man named Patterson who'd worked on boats for 30 years, cleared his throat. "Ms. Ashford, we've run every diagnostic. The system shows no faults, but the engines won't turn over. We need to tow it to the shipyard for a full tow it." "Yes, ma'am. It's the only—" "Do you know what I have scheduled for tomorrow morning?" Patterson shifted his weight. "Ma'am, I understand you have commitments, but—" "The Secretary of Commerce, 3 senators, the CEO of Meridian Shipping, a breakfast meeting that will determine whether my company gets the Pacific trade contract or loses it to the Chinese." Victoria's voice didn't rise. It got quieter, colder. "And you want me to tell them we're meeting at the Marriott because my yacht is broken? Ma'am, get off my boat." Patterson opened his mouth closed. It looked at his colleagues. They packed their equipment in silence. Victoria watched them go, her jaw tight, her hands gripping the railing hard enough to turn her knuckles white. Her phone buzzed. Her assistant calling for the 4th time. She ignored it. The Miami sun was setting, painting the water gold and red, and Victoria Ashford felt nothing but rage. Cold, familiar, comfortable rage. This was supposed to be simple. A floating office for her most important meeting of the year. A show of power. Instead, she was standing on a dead machine watching 3 overpaid experts admit defeat. "Excuse me." The voice came from the dock below. Deep. Calm. Unhurried. Victoria looked down. A black man stood there, maybe mid-40s, wearing faded coveralls with Webb Marine Services stitched on the chest. His hands were scarred, calloused, stained with the kind of grease that never fully washed off. He wasn't big, but he stood like someone who knew exactly where he belonged. "Private dock," Victoria said. "I know, I heard your engineers talking." He nodded toward the retreating men. "They're wrong." "Excuse me." "About needing to tow it, they're wrong. I can hear what's wrong from here." Victoria's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "You can hear it. The engine isn't even running." "That's how I know." She stared at him. He stared back. He didn't look away. Didn't shuffle his feet. Didn't apologize for existing. Victoria felt something shift in her chest. Annoyance mostly, but something else too. Something she hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. "Who are you?" "Marcus Webb. I run a repair shop in Overtown. Small boats mostly. Some yachts when people can't afford the big marina prices." "And you think you can fix a Benetti 3600? I think your engineers spent 2 hours looking at computer screens instead of listening to the machine." Marcus stepped closer to the dock's edge, looking up at the yacht with steady eyes. "The Benetti 3600 has a known issue with the fuel injection relay. It fails silently, doesn't throw a code, just stops working. Takes about 40 minutes to replace if you know where to look." Victoria felt the rage in her chest shift into something sharper. How dare this man show up her experts? How dare he stand there looking like he belonged nowhere near a boat like this and tell her what was wrong? But also, what if he was right? And you know where to look. I spent 20 years in the Navy, chief engineer on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. I've forgotten more about marine engines than those boys will ever learn. 20 years in the Navy, chief engineer on a carrier. Victoria looked at him again, really looked. Past the coveralls, past the grease, past her own assumptions. Why are you running a repair shop in Overtown? Something flickered across Marcus's face. Pain, maybe, gone before she could name it. That's my business. If you want on my boat, it's mine too. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Behind him, the sun was sinking lower, casting long shadows across the dock. I had a daughter, he said finally. She got sick. I needed flexibility. The Navy doesn't do flexibility. Had. Past tense. Victoria's throat tightened. She ignored it. Fine, she said. Get up here, fix my engine. You have until midnight. Marcus didn't move. What's in it for me? Excuse me. I'm not working for free, ma'am. And I'm not working for whatever your engineers charge. If I fix this boat, I want something real. Victoria felt her lip curl. The audacity. The sheer unbelievable audacity of this man. But also, she needed this boat fixed. What do you want? If I can't fix it, you owe me nothing. I'll walk away, and you can call the tow company. And if you can... Marcus looked at the Sovereign. At the sleek lines, the polished chrome, the understated elegance of $45 million floating on water. If I fix this engine by midnight, he said, you fund my daughter's surgery. Victoria froze. Your daughter? Mia. She's 6. She has a condition called spinal muscular atrophy. There's a treatment, a gene therapy. It's called Zolgensma. 1 injection. 1 chance to stop the disease from taking everything. How much? $2.1 million. Victoria laughed. She couldn't help it. The number was absurd. The request was absurd. This entire situation was absurd. You want me to pay $2 million because you fixed a relay? I want you to give my daughter a chance to live past 10 years old. Marcus's voice didn't waver. You can afford it. The question is whether you're the kind of person who would. The words hit Victoria like a slap. The kind of person who would. She thought about the meetings she'd canceled, the relationships she'd ended, the people she'd stepped over, stepped past on her way to the top. She thought about the press conference last month where a reporter asked about her charitable giving and she'd quoted tax benefits. She thought about her brother, David, dead at 16. A heart defect nobody caught in time. She'd been at boarding school when it happened, hadn't even known he was sick. She was 15 years old, and she learned something that day. She learned that love was a trap, that caring about someone gave the universe permission to take them away. She hadn't let herself care about anyone since. Fine, she heard herself say. Fix the engine by midnight. If it works, I'll fund the surgery. Marcus's face changed, just for a second. Just a crack in the armor. You're serious. I'm always serious. He nodded once, sharp and military. Then he was moving, climbing the gangway, his toolbox appearing from somewhere she hadn't noticed. Victoria watched him board her yacht, this stranger with grease under his nails and desperation in his eyes, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Fear. Not of him. Of herself. Of what it might mean if she actually kept this promise. Marcus Webb had learned a long time ago not to hope for things. Hope was dangerous. Hope made you soft. Hope got you killed, or worse, got the people you loved killed. But walking onto the deck of the Sovereign, he felt something stir in his chest. Something that felt terrifyingly like hope. Don't, he told himself. Do the job. Fix the engine. Get the money. Don't think about anything else. He found the engine room after 2 wrong turns. The yacht was massive, all polished wood and soft leather, and the quiet hum of systems that cost more than he'd make in a lifetime. The engines themselves were beautiful. Twin MTU 16V 4000 M93L units, 16 cylinders each. Over 4,000 horsepower combined. Machines built to move mountains of metal through water like it was nothing. Right now, they were silent. Dead. Marcus set down his toolbox and got to work. He'd told Victoria the truth. He could hear what was wrong. Not literally, not with the engines off. But the way Patterson had described the symptoms, the way the diagnostics had come back clean, the sudden failure without warning, it all pointed to the same thing. The fuel injection relay. Benetti had started using a new supplier 3 years ago. Cheaper parts, higher margins. The relays looked fine on the outside, tested fine in isolation. But under sustained load, they failed. The connection degraded slowly, invisibly, until one day the engine just stopped receiving fuel commands. He'd seen it twice before. Once on a fishing charter out of Key West. Once on a smaller yacht owned by a retired attorney who'd paid Marcus in cash and gratitude. 40 minutes later, he had the relay panel open. And there it was. The relay looked perfect. Clean contacts, solid housing, no visible damage. But when Marcus tested the output signal with his multimeter, the reading flickered. Intermittent failure. The worst kind. The kind that fooled computers and stumped engineers who trusted their screens more than their hands. He had a replacement in his toolbox. He always carried one. It had cost him $80 he couldn't really afford, but Marcus had learned long ago that preparation was the difference between success and excuse. He worked carefully, methodically. Removed the old relay. Checked the surrounding connections. Found 2 corroded terminals and cleaned them. Installed the new part. 45 minutes. Just like he'd told her. He closed the panel, wiped his hands on his coveralls, and walked to the bridge. The control console was dark. He found the startup sequence, ran through the pre-checks, held his breath. Pressed the ignition. The engines roared to life. Marcus stood there, listening to them run, feeling the deck vibrate under his feet, and let himself breathe. Mia's going to be okay. The thought hit him so hard, he had to grab the console for support. She's going to be okay. Charge. Victoria heard the engines from the upper deck. She'd been standing there staring at the water, trying not to think about what she'd just promised. $2 million. For a stranger. For his daughter. The board would think she'd lost her mind. Her mother would give her that look, the one that said Victoria was being emotional reckless, exactly like her father. Her father who'd built Ashford Maritime from nothing. Who'd worked 100-hour weeks until his heart gave out at 53, who'd taught Victoria that business was war and sentiment was weakness. What would he think of her now? The engine's roar answered for him. Nothing. He wouldn't think anything. Because he's dead, and you're alive, and you get to decide what kind of person you are. Victoria walked to the bridge. Marcus was there, standing at the console, his hands still dirty, his face impossible to read. "It's fixed," he said. "I can hear that." "The relay, like I said." He held up a small piece of electronics. "This is the old one. You can have your engineers inspect it if you want proof." Victoria didn't take it. "That won't be necessary." They stood there facing each other across the bridge of a boat that had cost more than most people would make in 10 lifetimes. "I'll have my assistant contact you tomorrow," Victoria said. "For the payment details." "Payment details." "For the surgery." "Zolgansma, you said 2.1 million. Marcus's jaw tightened. "You're actually going to do it?" "I said I would." "People say a lot of things, Ms. Ashford, especially rich people. I've learned not to believe any of it until I see the check clear." Victoria felt the words land, felt the truth in them. "I'm not most people." "Everyone thinks they're not most people." "And what do you think?" Marcus looked at her. Really looked the way she'd looked at him on the dock, like he was trying to see past the exterior, past the designer clothes and the perfect hair and the $45 million yacht. "I think you're scared," he said. Victoria's spine went rigid. "Excuse me. You heard me. You're scared. Not of me. Not of the money. You're scared of what happens if you actually help someone. scared it might mean something, might change you. He stepped closer, and Victoria realized she'd stepped back. I've seen people like you before. People who built walls so high they forgot what they were protecting. People who pushed everyone away because it hurt too much to let anyone in. You don't know anything about me. I know you froze when I mentioned my daughter. I know you made this deal without negotiating. I know you're still standing here instead of calling security. Marcus's voice was soft now, almost gentle. I know what grief looks like, Ms. Ashford. I've worn it long enough to recognize it on someone else. Victoria couldn't breathe. No one talked to her like this. No one saw through her like this. She had spent 15 years building armor so thick that nothing could penetrate it. And this man, this stranger in dirty coveralls, had walked through it like it wasn't even there. My brother, she heard herself say. He was 16. A heart defect. I was away at school. I'm sorry. I didn't even get to say goodbye. I found out when my mother called and she was crying so hard I couldn't understand her and I had to ask her 3 times before. Victoria stopped. Her throat was closing. Her eyes were burning. I don't talk about this. When did he die? 15 years ago, almost 16. And you've been running ever since. Victoria looked at him. At this man who'd lost his wife, whose daughter was dying, who was standing in her billion-dollar boat asking her questions no one had asked in years. How do you know? Because I ran too. After my wife died. After Mia got sick. Marcus's eyes were distant now, seeing something Victoria couldn't see. I ran until I couldn't run anymore. Until I realized that running doesn't fix anything. It just makes you tired. What fixed it? Nothing. Nothing fixes it. He met her eyes again. But some days are better than others, and some people make the better days more frequent. The engines hummed beneath them. The harbor lights reflected off the water, and Victoria Ashford, for the first time in 15 years, didn't want to be alone. Tell me about her, she said. Your daughter. Tell me about Mia. Marcus hadn't talked about Mia to a stranger in years. Hadn't talked about Angela, his wife, at all. But something about this woman, this cold, guarded, broken woman, made him want to. Maybe because she was broken in the same way he was. Maybe because she'd actually listened. Maybe because for the first time in longer than he could remember, someone had looked at him and seen something other than a failure. Mia's 6, he said. She was born early, 3 weeks. Angela had complications. Preeclampsia. They had to take Mia fast, and Angela... He stopped, started again. Angela didn't make it. Hemorrhage. They tried, but there was too much blood. She died holding Mia's hand. Well, Mia's finger. She was so small. Victoria was quiet. Her face was pale. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know. How would you... I don't exactly put it on the business cards. How did you... Victoria hesitated. How did you keep going? Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. I didn't have a choice. Mia was alive. She needed me. I couldn't fall apart because she was counting on me to hold it together. But you wanted to. Every day. Still do sometimes. When she has a bad day. When I watch her struggle to do things other kids do without thinking. When I lie awake at night, wondering if I'm doing enough, being enough, if Angela would be disappointed in me. Marcus's voice cracked. He let it. But then Mia wakes up in the morning and she smiles at me and I remember why I'm still here. She sounds incredible. She is. She's the strongest person I've ever met, and she's 6 years old. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed Victoria a photo. A little girl with her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn chin, sitting in a wheelchair, decorated with butterfly stickers, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. This was last week, her birthday. She asked for a trip to the aquarium, spent 3 hours watching the sharks. Victoria stared at the photo. Her expression was unreadable. She looks happy. She is, most of the time. The disease is, it's progressive. Right now she can still move her arms, still feed herself, still hug me goodnight. But without the treatment. Marcus put the phone away. Without the treatment that changes. The muscles weaken. The lungs start to fail. Eventually she won't be able to breathe on her own. How long? Without Zolgensma. A few years, maybe less. Victoria closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had changed. I'll make the calls tonight, she said. The hospital, the pharmaceutical company. We'll get it scheduled as fast as possible. Marcus felt his knees go weak. Ms. Ashford. Victoria. Victoria. He said her name like he was testing it, seeing how it felt in his mouth. Why? You don't know me. You don't know Mia. Why would you do this? Because I can. She turned away, looking out at the harbor. Because I've spent 15 years using money to build walls, and maybe it's time I used it to tear one down. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. Marcus should have left it there, should have taken the victory and walked away. But something about this woman, something about the way she stood there, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold, even though it was 70 degrees, made him push. There's more, he said. Something you're not telling me. Victoria was silent for a long moment. My brother wanted to be a marine biologist, she finally said. He was obsessed with the ocean, sharks specifically. He had this poster in his room, a great white breaching. He used to say that sharks never stopped moving, that if they stopped, they died. And you became a shark. Victoria's laugh was bitter. I became something. I'm not sure what anymore. She turned back to face him. When you said your daughter spent 3 hours watching sharks, I saw David. I saw him at 6 years old, pressing his face against the glass at the Monterey Aquarium, talking about how sharks were misunderstood. So this is about him. It's about a lot of things. Victoria's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. It's about the fact that I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and most days I can't remember why I wanted it in the first place. It's about a little girl who deserves a chance to grow up. It's about, maybe, trying to be a different kind of person. Marcus studied her face. The careful makeup, the invisible armor, the cracks starting to show underneath. That's terrifying, he said. Yes. But you're doing it anyway. Yes. Why? Victoria met his eyes. And for the first time he saw something other than the CEO, other than the Ice Queen. He saw a woman who'd been hurt so badly she'd forgotten what it felt like to be whole. Because my brother never got a chance to grow up, she said, and maybe if I help someone else's child it'll mean something. Maybe it'll matter. Marcus didn't think, he just acted. He crossed the distance between them and pulled her into a hug. For a moment Victoria went rigid. He felt her whole body tense, felt her hands come up like she was going to push him away. Then she broke. The sob came from somewhere deep, somewhere she'd kept locked for 15 years. Her hands grabbed his coveralls, the same coveralls she'd mocked, the same grease she'd looked down on, and she held on like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. Marcus held her while she cried. Didn't say anything, didn't need to. Sometimes the best thing you could do for someone was just be there. When Victoria finally pulled back, her makeup was ruined. Her eyes were red. She looked more human than she had all night. I got grease on your yacht, Marcus said. Victoria laughed. A real laugh surprised out of her. I don't care. First time for everything. They stood there, two broken people on a boat that cost more than either of them had ever thought about, and something shifted. Not love, not yet, but recognition. The kind that happened when you met someone who understood your darkness because they'd been living in their own. I should go, Marcus said. Mia's with her grandmother, but she doesn't like it when I'm gone too long. Of course. Victoria stepped back, wiping her eyes. I meant what I said. About the surgery. I'll start the process tomorrow. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when it's done. Marcus nodded, picked up his toolbox, headed for the gangway. Marcus? He turned. Victoria was silhouetted against the harbor lights, arms wrapped around herself again. But she was smiling, a small, uncertain smile like she'd forgotten how, and was trying to remember. Same time next week, she said. The boat has other systems. They probably need looking at. Marcus knew what she was really asking, knew that this wasn't about the boat at all. I'll check my schedule, he said. You do that. He walked down the gangway into the Miami night and didn't look back. But he smiled the whole way to his truck. Marcus got home at 11:45. His mother-in-law, Dorothy, was waiting on the porch of his small house in Overtown. She was 72 years old, had raised 8 children, and didn't take nonsense from anyone, including her son-in-law. "You're late," she said. "I know. I'm sorry. Job ran long." Dorothy studied his face with eyes that missed nothing. "You've been crying." "I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." Marcus sighed. There was no hiding anything from Dorothy. Never had been. Angela used to say her mother could read minds, and Marcus had never found evidence to the contrary. "Something happened tonight," he said. "Something good, I think. But I don't want to talk about it until I know for sure." Dorothy's expression softened. "This about Mia?" "Yeah." "The surgery money?" "Maybe." Dorothy was quiet for a moment. Then she stood, gathering her purse, her jacket. "Angela would want you to hope," she said. "Angela's not here." "No, but Mia is. And that child needs a father who believes things can get better." Dorothy put her hand on Marcus's cheek the way she used to when he first started dating Angela, when he was a nervous kid who couldn't believe this incredible woman wanted anything to do with him. "Don't give up, Marcus. Not when you're this close." "I'm trying. I know you are." She kissed his forehead and headed for her car. Mia ate all her dinner, had a good day. She's been asleep since 9, but she asked me to tell you she loves you. Marcus's throat tightened. "Tell her I love her too. Tell her yourself, in the morning." Dorothy waved without turning around. "Good night, son." Marcus watched her drive away, then went inside. The house was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that hadn't been updated since the 80s. He'd bought it with his Navy savings 3 years ago after Angela died, after the apartment they'd shared became unbearable. Every corner of this place reminded him of what he'd lost. And every corner reminded him of what he still had. He walked to Mia's room, pushed the door open quietly. She was asleep, her breathing, even her face, peaceful. The wheelchair sat in the corner, decorated with stickers she'd added over the past year. Butterflies, mostly. She loved butterflies. "They start out as caterpillars," she'd told him once, "and everyone thinks they're just worms. But then they change, they grow wings, and everyone realizes they were beautiful the whole time." 6 years old, and she understood more about transformation than most adults. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to wake her. He watched her breathe, counted the rises and falls of her chest like he did every night. 14, 15, 16. Still strong, still fighting. "Hey, baby girl," he whispered. "Daddy might have found a way to help you. I don't want to promise anything yet. But maybe things are going to be okay." Mia stirred. Her eyes fluttered open. "Daddy?" "Shh. Go back to sleep. I just wanted to check on you." "Did you fix the boat?" Marcus smiled. "Yeah, baby. I fixed the boat." "Good." Mia's eyes were already closing again. "You can fix anything, Daddy." Marcus kissed her forehead, pulled the blanket up to her chin, and stood. "You can fix anything, Daddy." If only that were true. But maybe, just maybe, he'd found someone who could fix the one thing he couldn't. He walked to the living room, sat on the couch, and stared at the ceiling. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I've made the first calls. The treatment center can see Mia next week for evaluation. My assistant will send you the details tomorrow. V." Marcus read it 3 times. Then he put his head in his hands and cried. The next morning came too fast. Marcus had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Victoria's face when she'd broken down on the yacht, saw the way her armor had cracked, saw something underneath that looked terrifyingly like his own reflection. He made breakfast for Mia the way he always did. Scrambled eggs soft enough that she didn't have to work too hard to chew. Toast cut into triangles because she insisted triangles tasted better than squares. Orange juice in the purple cup with the butterflies on it. "Daddy, you look tired," Mia said, wheeling herself to the kitchen table. "I'm fine, baby girl." "You always say that when you're not fine." Marcus smiled despite himself. 6 years old, and she could read him better than anyone. "I had a late night, but it was a good late night." Did something good happen? He knelt beside her wheelchair, taking her small hand in his. "Maybe. I don't want to say for sure yet, but maybe something really good happened." Mia's eyes went wide. "Is it about my legs?" Marcus's heart clenched. She always asked about her legs. Always hoped that somehow someday she'd be able to walk like the other kids, run like the other kids, dance like she saw on TV. "It's about making you stronger," he said carefully. "About helping your muscles work better." "The medicine. The special medicine you told me about." "Yeah, baby. The special medicine." Mia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Is it very expensive?" "Don't worry about that." "But you always worry about money. I hear you on the phone sometimes. And Grandma Dorothy says..." "What does Grandma Dorothy say?" Mia bit her lip. "She says you work too hard and you don't take care of yourself, and that Angela would be upset if she could see how skinny you've gotten." Marcus laughed, but it caught in his throat. "Grandma Dorothy talks too much." "She says that too." He pulled Mia into a hug, careful of her fragile bones, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo. "Listen to me. Whatever happens, whatever it costs, I'm going to take care of you. That's my job. That's what daddies do." "I know." Mia's arms tightened around his neck. "You're the best daddy in the whole world. And you're the best daughter in the whole universe. The whole universe is bigger than the whole world." "That's why I said it." Mia giggled, and the sound filled the small kitchen with something that felt like sunshine. Marcus held on to it, held on to her, let himself believe just for a moment that everything might actually be okay. His phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize, Victoria Ashford's assistant. "Please call this number at your earliest convenience to discuss scheduling." Marcus looked at Mia, looked at the phone, looked at the future that might finally be within reach. "Daddy, why are you crying?" He hadn't realized he was. Happy tears, baby girl. Just happy tears. Victoria hadn't slept at all. She'd spent the night making phone calls, sending emails, pulling strings she hadn't pulled in years. By 6 a.m., she had a preliminary appointment scheduled at the Gene Therapy Center in Boston. By 7 a.m., she had confirmation that Zolgensma was available and could be administered within the month if Mia qualified. By 8 a.m., she was staring at herself in the bathroom mirror, wondering who the hell she was becoming. "You've lost your mind," she said to her reflection. $2 million for a stranger. $2 million because some mechanic fixed your boat and made you cry. Her reflection didn't argue. Victoria's phone rang. Her assistant, Patricia. "Good morning, Ms. Ashford. I have your schedule for today. The board meeting at 9, lunch with the Singapore delegation at noon, conference call with the London office at 3. Cancel the lunch." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry." "Cancel it. Reschedule for next week. I have something else." "Ms. Ashford, the Singapore delegation, flew in specifically for this meeting. Mr. Chen has been very clear about the importance of Patricia. Victoria's voice was steel. Cancel. The lunch. Yes, ma'am. May I ask what you'll be doing instead? Victoria paused. What would she be doing? She didn't know. She just knew she couldn't sit in another restaurant eating food she couldn't taste, talking about numbers she didn't care about, pretending to be someone she wasn't sure she wanted to be anymore. Personal matter, she said. That's all you need to know. She hung up before Patricia could respond. The board meeting was brutal. Victoria sat at the head of the conference table, surrounded by 11 people who'd known her since she was a child. Her father's old partners, her mentors, the people who'd guided Ashford Maritime from a regional shipping company to a global empire. They were talking about the Pacific contract, about margins and logistics and competitive advantages. Victoria heard the words, processed them, responded appropriately, but her mind was elsewhere. Victoria, are you listening? She blinked. Richard Harrington, the oldest member of the board, was staring at her with concern. I'm sorry, Richard. What was the question? I asked about the Singapore timeline. Chen is getting impatient. He wants a decision by the end of the month. Then he'll have one. Will he? Because frankly, Victoria, you seem distracted. You've seemed distracted for weeks now. Is everything all right? Victoria looked around the table. 11 faces. 11 people who saw her as a machine. A profit-generating algorithm in designer clothes. Everything's fine, she said. I've just been thinking. About what? About what we're building. About why we're building it. She stood walking to the window, looking out at the Miami skyline. My father started this company because he loved the ocean, loved ships, loved the idea of connecting people across distances that used to be impossible. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that. We became about quarterly reports and shareholder value and beating the competition. We forgot why we existed in the first place. The room was silent. Victoria, Richard said carefully. Are you feeling all right? Do you need to take some time? I'm fine, Richard. I'm better than I've been in years, actually. She turned to face them. Close the Singapore deal. Give Chen whatever he wants. I don't care about the margins. I care about moving forward. But the margins are... I said I don't care. Victoria's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Are there any other questions? There weren't. The meeting ended 20 minutes early. Victoria walked out without looking back. She drove to Overtown. She didn't know why, didn't have a plan, just got in her car and drove following the GPS to the address her assistant had pulled from Marcus's business registration. The neighborhood was nothing like the Miami she knew. No high-rises, no luxury boutiques, no restaurants where a glass of wine cost more than most people made in an hour. Just houses. Small, worn, but cared for. Yards with children's toys. Porches with elderly people watching the street. A community that existed outside the world Victoria had built for herself. She found Webb Marine Services on a corner lot. A converted garage with a hand-painted sign. 2 boats in the yard, both in various stages of repair. Marcus was under one of them when she pulled up. You know, he said without looking, most people call ahead. I'm not most people. He slid out from under the boat, wiping his hands on a rag. His expression was unreadable. No, he said. I'm starting to figure that out. I canceled a lunch with the Singapore delegation to come here. Should I be flattered? I don't know. I don't know why I came. Victoria stopped, took a breath. I couldn't stop thinking about last night. About what you said. About what I said. About all of it. Marcus stood slowly, his knees popping. He was wearing the same coveralls as last night, or identical ones. His hands were stained with grease. He looked nothing like the men she usually spent time with. He looked real. You want to come inside? he asked. I've got coffee. Nothing fancy, but it's hot. I'd like that. The inside of the shop was organized chaos. Tools everywhere, but each in its place. Boat parts labeled and sorted. A small desk in the corner with a laptop and stacks of paper. On the wall above the desk, a photograph. A beautiful woman with warm eyes, holding a baby wrapped in pink. Angela, Victoria said. Marcus handed her a cup of coffee. Yeah. She was beautiful. She was everything. He sat on a stool, gestured for Victoria to take the chair. We met in the Navy. She was a corpsman. I was an engineer. She used to say we were perfect for each other because she fixed people and I fixed machines. How long were you together? 12 years, married for 8. Marcus's eyes were distant. We tried for kids for a long time. Doctors said it might not happen. And then Mia came along and Angela said she was our miracle. And then the miracle cost Angela her life. Marcus's voice was flat, empty. They told me she was bleeding out while I was holding Mia for the first time. Told me I had to choose who to say goodbye to. My wife of 8 years, or the daughter I'd known for 30 seconds. Victoria's chest ached. That's not a choice anyone should have to make. No, it's not. Marcus looked at her, and his eyes were wet. I held Angela's hand while she died. She couldn't speak anymore, but she mouthed 3 words. Save our baby, over and over. Save our baby. So you did. So, I'm trying to. He wiped his eyes roughly. Every day I'm trying to. But some days I feel like I'm failing. Like no matter how hard I work, how much I sacrifice, it's never going to be enough. Victoria set down her coffee, moved closer, put her hand on his arm. It's enough, she said. Whatever you're doing, it's enough. I saw that photo of Mia. That little girl is happy. She's loved. That's because of you. It's because of Angela. Everything good about Mia came from Angela. Maybe. But Angela's not here anymore. You are. And you've kept that little girl alive, kept her happy, kept her believing in miracles. That's not nothing, Marcus. That's everything. He looked at her hand on his arm, looked at her face. His expression shifted, softened. Why are you really here, Victoria? I told you. I couldn't stop thinking. No, the real reason. Not the one you've been telling yourself. Victoria pulled her hand back, wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know. Yes, you do. I don't. Victoria. His voice was gentle but firm. I spent 20 years reading people in the Navy. Officers who were lying about being ready for combat. Sailors who were hiding injuries to avoid medical discharge. I know when someone's not telling the truth even to themselves. She was quiet for a long moment. The coffee machine gurgled. Outside, a dog barked. I'm lonely, she finally said. I have more money than I could spend in 100 lifetimes, and I'm so lonely I can't breathe sometimes. I go to bed alone in a penthouse that's bigger than some people's houses, and I wake up alone, and I spend all day surrounded by people who only care about what I can do for them. Her voice cracked. And then I met you, and you looked at me like I was a person, not a CEO, not a billionaire, not the ice queen, just a person, and I don't know what to do with that. Marcus was quiet. Then he stood, walked to the window, looked out at the street. You know what Angela used to say about me? What? She used to say I had a hero complex, that I couldn't see someone in trouble without trying to fix it. She said it was my greatest strength and my biggest flaw. Is that what I am? Someone in trouble you're trying to fix? Maybe. He turned to face her. Or maybe you're someone who reminds me that I'm not the only broken person in the world. That sometimes broken people find each other and make something whole. Victoria's heart was pounding. That's a dangerous thing to say. I know. We're very different people, from very different worlds. I know that too. This could go badly. This could go very, very badly. Probably. Marcus walked back to her, stood close enough that she could smell the grease on his coveralls, the coffee on his breath. But my wife taught me something before she died. She taught me that the only thing worse than getting hurt is being too scared to try. And if I hurt you, then I'll survive. I've survived worse. And if I hurt Mia, Marcus's expression hardened, then we'll have a problem. She's already lost one mother. I won't let her lose another. Another? She asked about you this morning. Before I'd even mentioned you, she said she dreamed about the lady with the shiny shoes. Said the lady was sad but getting better. Victoria's throat closed. She dreamed about me. Kids are perceptive. They see things adults miss. Marcus's hand came up, hovered near her face, stopped. I'm going to ask you something and I need you to answer honestly. Can you do that? I'll try. Are you doing this because you actually care? Or because caring makes you feel better about yourself? The question hit Victoria like a punch. She stepped back, looked away. I don't know, she said. I want to say I care. I think I care, but I've spent so long not caring about anything that I'm not sure I know the difference anymore. That's the most honest thing you've said since you got here. Is that good or bad? Good. Marcus smiled, and it transformed his whole face, made him look younger, lighter, almost happy. Honest I can work with. Perfect is what scares me. Victoria laughed despite herself. Nobody's ever accused me of being perfect. The tabloids seem to think you're pretty close. The tabloids don't know anything. They know you're here, or they will eventually. People talk. Neighbors notice expensive cars in neighborhoods that don't get expensive cars. Victoria looked at her Mercedes parked on the cracked concrete driveway. He was right. She stuck out like a sore thumb. Does that bother you? She asked. People knowing. It bothers me that it might bother you. That you might wake up tomorrow and decide this was a mistake. That your board might tell you I'm bad for business and you'll believe them. I wouldn't. You might. You don't know yet. Neither do I. Marcus moved past her, started cleaning up his work area. I've got a proposal. I'm listening. Come back next week. Bring Mia to the evaluation. See what happens. If it works, if the treatment goes through, then we'll talk about what comes next. If it doesn't, he shrugged. Then we'll deal with that too. That's very practical. I'm a practical man. And what about us? What about whatever this is? Marcus stopped cleaning, turned to face her. I'll tell you what my father told me when I joined the Navy. One mission at a time, son. Complete the mission in front of you before you start planning the next one. The mission in front of us is Mia. The mission in front of us is always Mia. Everything else is secondary. Victoria nodded slowly. I can accept that. Good. He walked her to the door, opened it. Thank you for coming, for the coffee, for being honest. Thank you for listening, for not judging. I'm in no position to judge anyone. He smiled again, and Victoria felt something warm spread through her chest. Drive safe. The potholes around here are murder on luxury suspension. I'll manage. She walked to her car, got in, started the engine. Through the rearview mirror, she could see Marcus standing in the doorway of his shop, watching her. She raised her hand. He raised his. And Victoria Ashford drove back to her world, carrying something she hadn't felt in 15 years. Hope. The week passed slowly. Victoria went through the motions. Meetings, calls, decisions that moved millions of dollars and affected thousands of lives. She did her job because she'd always done her job, because work was the only thing that had never let her down. But her mind was elsewhere. She texted Marcus twice. Once to confirm the appointment details. Once to ask how Mia was doing. His responses were brief, professional, guarded. She understood. He was protecting himself, protecting Mia. She couldn't blame him for that. On Thursday night, her mother called. Victoria, darling, I heard the strangest rumor today. What rumor would that be, Mother? Something about you canceling meetings, taking personal time. One of Richard Harrington's wives said you gave a speech at the board meeting about your father's vision for the company. Since when do you talk about your father at board meetings? Since I started thinking about what actually matters. Silence on the line. Then, Victoria, are you having some kind of breakdown? Do I need to fly down there? I'm fine, Mother. Better than fine. You don't sound fine. You sound different. Maybe different is good. Different is dangerous. Different gets people talking. Different makes investors nervous. Her mother's voice sharpened. Is this about a man? Please tell me this isn't about a man. Victoria closed her eyes. It's about a lot of things. Who is he? Is he suitable? Does he come from a good family? Victoria, you know what happened last time. You know what, Daniel? This isn't like Daniel. Nothing about this is like Daniel. Then what is it like? Help me understand what's happening to my daughter. Victoria wanted to tell her. Wanted to explain about Marcus, about Mia, about the crack that had opened in her armor and let something unexpected in. But she knew her mother. Knew how the conversation would go. Knew it would end with warnings and lectures and thinly veiled disappointments. I'm helping someone, she said instead. A little girl who needs medical treatment. That's all. A little girl whose little girl. Does it matter? Of course it matters. Everything matters when you're in your position. Every decision you make reflects on the company, on the family, on the name. I know. You've told me 1,000 times. Then why do you keep forgetting? Maybe I'm tired of remembering. Victoria's voice was harder than she intended. Maybe I'm tired of living my life for people who don't actually care about me. Maybe I want something real for once. Her mother was quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Softer. Almost sad. Your father said something similar. Right before his heart attack. What do you mean? He called me from the office that night. Said he was tired. Said he wondered if any of it had been worth it. Said he wished he'd spent more time with you and David instead of building an empire you never asked for. A pause. 2 hours later he was dead. Victoria's hand tightened on the phone. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want to lose you too. Because whatever you're going through, whatever's making you act this way, I need you to be careful. I need you to think about the consequences. I am thinking about the consequences. That's exactly what I'm doing. Then think harder. Think about what you have to lose. What do I have to lose? Mother money. I have more than I'll ever need. Power. I never wanted it in the first place. Reputation. Victoria laughed bitterly. My reputation is a cage. I'm tired of living inside it. Victoria. I have to go. The appointment is tomorrow. I'll call you when it's done. She hung up before her mother could respond. Then she sat in her penthouse, surrounded by everything money could buy, and felt more alone than ever. Friday morning. Marcus picked Mia up from school early. She was excited, bouncing in her wheelchair, asking questions he couldn't answer. Is the hospital big? Will there be other kids? Can I bring Mr. Whiskers? Mr. Whiskers was a stuffed cat she'd had since she was 2. Angela had bought it at a garage sale, and Mia had never slept without it. You can bring Mr. Whiskers, Marcus said. And yes, there will probably be other kids. Some of them might be in wheelchairs too. Like me. Like you. Mia was quiet for a moment. Then, Daddy, will the medicine hurt? Marcus pulled over, turned in his seat to look at his daughter. I don't know, baby girl. The doctors are going to explain everything, but whatever happens, I'll be right there with you. I won't leave your side for a second. Promise. Promise. Pinky promise. He held out his pinky. She wrapped hers around it. Pinky promise, he said. Mia smiled. Okay, then I'm not scared. But Marcus was. Marcus was terrified. They arrived at the Gene Therapy Center at 10 o'clock. Victoria was already there. She was standing in the lobby looking completely out of place. Designer suit. Perfect makeup. expensive heels that clicked on the linoleum floor. When she saw Mia, something in her face changed, softened, became almost human. "You must be Mia," she said, kneeling to wheelchair level. "I've heard so much about you." Mia studied her with serious eyes. "You're the lady from my dream." "I am." "You were sad, but you looked less sad today." Mia tilted her head. "Are you still sad?" Victoria glanced at Marcus. He shrugged. "A little," she admitted. "But meeting you is making me feel better." Mia grinned. "That's what I do. Daddy says I'm a professional cheerer-upper." "I believe it." The evaluation took 3 hours. Blood tests, physical assessments, consultations with specialists. Mia was brave through all of it, only crying once when the needle went in for the blood draw. Marcus held her hand the entire time. Victoria stayed in the waiting room, making calls, handling the insurance complications, cutting through red tape with a machete made of money and influence. When it was over, they gathered in Dr. Patterson's office. Mr. Webb, Miss Ashford. The doctor was a small woman with kind eyes and silver hair. "I have good news." Marcus's heart stopped. "She qualifies. Mia is an excellent candidate for Zolgensma treatment. Her SMA is type 2, which means her motor neurons are still partially functional. The gene therapy should be able to halt the progression and potentially restore some function." Potentially. Nothing is guaranteed in medicine, Mr. Webb, but based on the clinical trials, patients in Mia's condition have shown significant improvement. Some have regained the ability to walk with assistance. Others have maintained existing function indefinitely. Dr. Patterson smiled. "Your daughter is young and strong. She has every reason to be optimistic." Marcus couldn't speak. The words wouldn't come. His vision blurred. Victoria's hand found his. Squeezed. "When can we schedule the treatment?" she asked. "We have an opening in 2 weeks. I'll need to coordinate with the pharmaceutical company and the insurance provider, but given the circumstances..." Dr. Patterson glanced at Victoria. "I don't anticipate any delays." "Good." Victoria's voice was steady, controlled. "Whatever you need, whatever resources you have, my full support." "Thank you, Ms. Ashford. Your generosity is quite remarkable." "It's not generosity. It's basic human decency." The words hung in the air. Dr. Patterson nodded slowly. "I wish more people saw it that way." After the appointment, they walked to the parking lot together. Mia was asleep in her wheelchair, exhausted from the day. Mr. Whiskers was tucked under her chin. 2 weeks, Marcus said. 2 weeks. "I don't know how to thank you." Victoria stopped walking, turned to face him. "You already have. More than you know." "Victoria, I need to tell you something." She took a breath. "After the treatment, after Mia's better, I want to keep seeing you, both of you. Not as a charity case, not as an obligation, as..." She hesitated. "As whatever this is becoming." Marcus looked at her, at this woman who'd mocked him a week ago, who'd thrown champagne glasses and given orders like a general and looked at him like he was dirt on her shoe, who'd then cried in his arms on a yacht, who'd driven to his neighborhood in a car worth more than his house, who'd just spent the morning cutting through bureaucracy to save his daughter's life. "I'd like that," he said. Victoria's smile was small, uncertain, almost shy. "Really? Really?" She nodded, looked at Mia sleeping in the wheelchair, looked back at Marcus. "I should warn you," she said. "This is going to get complicated. When people find out, when the press finds out, it's going to get very, very complicated. I've survived complicated before. Not like this. Not billionaire-level complicated. The scrutiny, the invasion of privacy, the constant judgment. Victoria." Marcus stepped closer. "I spent 20 years in the Navy. I've been shot at, torpedoed, and once spent 3 days floating in a life raft in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, waiting for rescue." He smiled. "I can handle some reporters." She laughed, A real laugh surprised out of her. "You're not what I expected," she said. "Neither are you." They stood there in the hospital parking lot with a sleeping child between them and an uncertain future ahead. And somehow, despite everything, it felt like the beginning of something good. The 2 weeks before Mia's treatment became something Marcus hadn't experienced in years. Something that felt almost like normalcy, almost like happiness. Victoria came to Overtown 3 more times. Each visit she stayed a little longer. Each visit the walls came down a little more. On Tuesday, she brought lunch, Thai food from a restaurant Marcus had never heard of in containers that probably cost more than the food itself. Mia declared the pad Thai the best noodles in the whole universe and demanded Victoria teach her to use chopsticks. "You're holding them wrong," Victoria said, adjusting Mia's grip. "Like this. Pretend they're little fingers picking up the food." "Little fingers?" Mia giggled. "That's silly." "Silly works. Whatever helps you remember." Marcus watched them from across the small kitchen table. Victoria's designer suit was getting sauce stains on the sleeve. She didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she just didn't care. "Daddy, look." Mia held up a single noodle triumphant. "I did it." "I see that, baby girl. You're a natural." "Miss Victoria is a good teacher." Victoria's face did something complicated, pleased and pained at the same time. "You're an excellent student." On Thursday, Victoria brought coloring books. Not the cheap kind from the drugstore, but elaborate ones with mandalas and ocean scenes and intricate patterns that kept Mia occupied for hours. "Where did you find these?" Marcus asked, flipping through one. "I've never seen coloring books this detailed." "An art supply store downtown. The owner said they're therapeutic, good for focus and relaxation." "You went to an art supply store? Is that surprising?" "Victoria, I'm pretty sure you have people who do your shopping for you." She was quiet for a moment. "I wanted to pick them myself." It felt important. That night, after Mia fell asleep with a purple crayon still clutched in her hand, Marcus walked Victoria to her car. "Thank you," he said, "for the books, for coming, for all of it. You don't have to keep thanking me. I want to." Victoria looked at him in the dim light of the street lamp. Her makeup was smudged. Her hair was coming loose from its perfect twist. She looked tired and real and more beautiful than she'd ever looked on the deck of her yacht. "I like coming here," she said. "I like who I am when I'm here." "Who are you when you're here?" "Someone who matters, not for what I can do or what I own, just for being present." She shook her head. "That probably sounds ridiculous." "It doesn't. It sounds human." "I'm not sure I remember how to be human." "You're learning." She smiled, small, uncertain. "Am I?" "Mia thinks so. She asked me today if you were going to be around for a while." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I hoped so." Victoria's eyes glistened. "I hope so too." She got in her car and drove away, and Marcus stood in his driveway until her taillights disappeared around the corner. Hope. It was a dangerous thing to feel, but he couldn't seem to stop. The Friday before the treatment, everything changed. Marcus was at his shop working on a fishing boat engine when his phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Webb, this is Daniel Crawford from the Miami Herald. I'm working on a story about Victoria Ashford, and I was hoping you could answer some questions." Marcus's blood went cold. "How did you get this number?" "Public records, Mr. Webb. Your business is registered with the state. I'm just doing some background research on Ms. Ashford's recent activities. Can you confirm that she's been visiting your shop in Overtown?" No comment. "Mr. Webb, there's no need to be defensive. This could be a positive story. A billionaire reaching out to the community, helping a struggling single father." I said no comment. "What about your daughter Mia, is that right? I understand she has a medical condition. Is Ms. Ashford funding her treatment?" Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. "You leave my daughter out of this." Mr. Webb, I'm just trying to get the facts. Marcus hung up. His hands were shaking. He called Victoria immediately. Marcus, is everything okay? A reporter just called me, from the Miami Herald. He knows about you coming to Overtown. He knows about Mia. Silence on the line. Then, how much does he know? Enough to be asking questions. Did you say anything? No. But Victoria, if this gets out. I know. Her voice was tight, controlled. The CEO voice he hadn't heard in weeks. Let me handle it. I'll call you back. She hung up before he could respond. 2 hours later, Marcus got a text. Turn on Channel 7. Now. He grabbed the remote with numb fingers. Victoria was on the screen, standing behind a podium in what looked like a press conference. Cameras flashing, microphones thrust toward her face. I'm here to address the recent speculation about my personal life, she said. Her voice was calm. Her face was a mask. I have been visiting a marine repair shop in Overtown as part of my charitable activities. The owner, Marcus Webb, is a Navy veteran who runs a small business serving the local community. A reporter shouted, What about his daughter? Sources say you're paying for her medical treatment, Mr. Webb's daughter has a serious medical condition. I've offered assistance with her care. This is not unusual for someone in my position. Ashford Maritime has always been committed to supporting veterans and their families. Is there a romantic relationship between you and Mr. Webb? Victoria's expression didn't change. I have the utmost respect for Mr. Webb and his family. Any suggestion of impropriety is baseless and offensive. Ms. Ashford, your board members have expressed concern about your recent behavior. Can you comment on rumors that you're facing pressure to step down? My position at Ashford Maritime is secure. The company's performance speaks for itself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. She walked away from the podium. The cameras followed her until she disappeared through a door. Marcus sat on his couch, staring at the screen, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under him. Any suggestion of impropriety is baseless and offensive. Charitable activities. A Navy veteran who runs a small business. That's what he was to her. That's what this was. A charity case. A PR opportunity. A way to make herself look good. His phone buzzed. Victoria calling. He didn't answer. Victoria called 7 times that night. Marcus ignored every call. Ignored the texts that followed. Ignored everything except Mia, who needed dinner and a bath and a bedtime story, and someone to tell her everything was going to be okay. Daddy, why do you look sad? I'm not sad, baby girl, just tired. You're lying. I can tell when you're lying. Your eyes get all squinchy. Marcus forced a smile. Squinchy isn't a word. It is now. I made it up. Mia reached for his hand. Is it about Miss Victoria? Why would you ask that? Because she makes you happy, and now you're not happy. So something happened with Miss Victoria. 6 years old. Too smart for her own good. Too perceptive for Marcus's comfort. Grown-up stuff, he said. Don't worry about it. Grown-up stuff is always the stuff that matters most. That's what Grandma Dorothy says. Grandma Dorothy says too much. She says that too. Mia squeezed his hand. But Daddy, whatever happened, I think Miss Victoria is good. I think she likes us for real, not pretend. How do you know? Because of how she looked at me when she thought I wasn't watching. Like I was special. Like I mattered. Mia's voice was small. No one except you and Grandma ever looked at me like that. Marcus's throat closed. He pulled Mia into a hug, careful of her fragile body, breathing in her strawberry shampoo. You are special, he said. You do matter. More than anything in the world. I know. But it's nice when other people see it too. He tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead, watched her fall asleep with Mr. Whiskers tucked under her chin. Then he went to the living room, pulled out his phone, and read Victoria's texts. I had to say something. The press was going to run the story no matter what. I was trying to control the narrative. Please call me. Let me explain. I know how it sounded. I know how it looked. But you have to understand, this is how it works in my world. This is how you survive. Marcus, please. Mia's treatment is in 3 days. Don't let this ruin everything. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please let me make this right. Marcus stared at the screen until the words blurred. She was sorry. She wanted to make it right. She was trying to control the narrative. But she'd stood in front of cameras and called him a charity case. Called what they had charitable activities. Denied that there was anything between them worth acknowledging. Just like his supervisor at the Navy had done when Marcus had asked for compassionate leave after Angela died. Webb is a valuable asset, but personal matters can't interfere with operational readiness. Just like the insurance company had done when they'd denied Mia's first treatment request. We appreciate Mr. Webb's situation, but the policy terms are clear. He was always someone's problem to manage. Someone's PR opportunity. Someone's checkbox on a form. Never someone's choice. He typed a response. Don't contact me again. The treatment is still on. Mia needs it. But I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. Leave us alone. He sent it before he could change his mind. Then he threw his phone across the room and watched it bounce off the wall. Victoria read the message in her car outside Marcus's house. She'd driven there without thinking, without planning. Had been sitting in the dark for 20 minutes, trying to work up the courage to knock on his door. Leave us alone. 3 words. Final. Absolute. She'd destroyed it. Whatever fragile thing they'd been building, she'd destroyed it with 12 minutes of carefully scripted lies. Her phone rang. Richard Harrington. Victoria, we need to talk about the press conference. Not now, Richard. Yes, now. The board is concerned. Your performance today raised more questions than it answered. I handled it. Did you? Because from where I'm sitting, you just admitted to funding medical treatment for a stranger's child. A stranger who happens to be an attractive black man you've been visiting in a low-income neighborhood. The optics are terrible. The optics. Victoria's laugh was bitter. That's what matters to you. The optics. It's what matters to shareholders. It's what matters to the Singapore deal. It's what matters to everyone whose livelihood depends on this company. And what about what matters to me? Silence on the line. Then Victoria, I've known you since you were a teenager. I watched you grow up. I watched you become the leader your father always knew you could be. Don't throw all of that away for some infatuation. You don't know anything about what this is. I know it's affecting your judgment. I know the board is discussing your future. I know that if you don't get control of this situation immediately, you may not have a company to run by the end of the month. Victoria closed her eyes. Let the words wash over her. The company, the board, the shareholders, the Singapore deal, the endless exhausting machinery of wealth and power that she'd dedicated her entire life to maintaining. What had it gotten her? A penthouse she couldn't sleep in, a reputation she couldn't escape, a life so carefully constructed that there was no room for anything real. What do you want me to do? She asked. End it, publicly. Make a statement that the relationship, whatever it is over. Focus on the business. Close the Singapore deal. Prove to the board that you're still the Victoria Ashford we need you to be. And if I don't, then I can't protect you, and neither can anyone else. Richard hung up. Victoria sat in her car in the dark outside the house of a man who never wanted to see her again, and felt something break inside her chest. The treatment happened on Monday. Marcus took Mia to the hospital at 6 in the morning. She was nervous, but brave, clutching Mr. Whiskers and asking questions about every machine she saw. What does that one do? Monitors your heart rate, baby girl. And that one? Blood pressure. And that really big one with all the tubes, that's the one that's going to make you stronger. Mia looked at the IV stand at the bag of clear liquid that would soon be connected to her arm. It doesn't look very strong. The strongest things often don't look like much. That's what makes them special. Like you? Marcus's heart clenched. What do you mean? You don't look special. You just look like a regular daddy. But you're the strongest person I know. Mia grinned. So maybe that medicine is strong too, even though it looks boring. He hugged her, held on until the nurse came to prep her for the procedure. Mr. Webb, we're ready to begin. You can stay in the room if you'd like. I'm not leaving. I didn't think so. The infusion took 2 hours. Marcus sat beside Mia's bed, holding her hand, watching the medicine flow into her body. The medicine that Victoria had paid for. The medicine that might give his daughter a future. He tried not to think about Victoria, tried not to wonder where she was, what she was doing, whether she was watching the clock too. Failed completely. Daddy. Mia's voice was sleepy. The sedative was working. I'm here, baby girl. Is Miss Victoria coming? No, sweetheart, she's not coming. Why not? Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes hurt people. Did she hurt you? A little. Mia was quiet for a moment. Her eyes were drooping, but she fought to stay awake. Daddy, when I make mistakes, you always forgive me. That's different. Why? Because you're my daughter. Because I love you. But Miss Victoria looked at me like she loved me too, and she looked at you like she loved you. Mia's grip on his hand tightened. Maybe she just made a mistake. Maybe she needs someone to forgive her. Mia, I'm sleepy, Daddy, but I think people who make mistakes deserve second chances. That's what you always tell me. Her eyes closed. Her breathing evened out. Marcus sat there holding his daughter's hand, listening to the steady beep of the monitors, and felt the walls around his heart start to crack. 3 days after the treatment, Victoria resigned from Ashford Maritime. Marcus found out from the news like everyone else. He was eating breakfast with Mia when the anchor said, "In a surprise announcement, Victoria Ashford has stepped down as CEO of Ashford Maritime, the company her father founded 30 years ago. The board has appointed CFO Patricia Winters as interim CEO while they search for a permanent replacement." Daddy, that's Miss Victoria. Marcus stared at the screen. Victoria was walking out of the Ashford Maritime building surrounded by photographers, her face unreadable. She looks sad, Mia said. Why is she sad? I don't know, baby girl. But he did know. He knew exactly why. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you don't want to hear from me. But I wanted you to know that I made a choice. For the first time in my life, I chose what matters over what's expected. I'm sorry it took me so long. I'm sorry for what I said at the press conference. I'm sorry for everything. I hope Mia is okay. I hope you're okay. I hope someday you can forgive me. Marcus read the message 3 times. She'd resigned. She'd walked away from everything, the company, the money, the power, the life she'd known since she was born. For what? Daddy Mia was watching him with those 2 perceptive eyes. You're doing the squinchy thing again. Sorry, baby girl. Is it about Miss Victoria? Yeah, it is. What did she do? Marcus looked at his daughter. At this little girl, who'd been through more in 6 years than most people experienced in a lifetime, who still believed in second chances, who still saw the good in people. I think, he said slowly, she did something very brave. Brave like you. Braver. Much braver. Mia grinned. Then you should forgive her. Because brave people deserve second chances most of all. Marcus put down his phone. Looked at the TV where they were still showing footage of Victoria leaving the building. Looked at his daughter who was watching him with hope in her eyes. Maybe you're right, he said. I'm always right. Mia picked up her spoon and went back to her cereal. That's what Grandma Dorothy says. Grandma Dorothy says too much. You always say that. Because it's always true. But he was smiling as he said it. And for the first time in days, the smile felt real. That afternoon, Marcus drove to Victoria's penthouse. He'd gotten the address from a friend who worked building security. Probably illegal. Definitely stalkerish. He didn't care. The doorman looked at him like he was an alien. Can I help you, sir? I'm here to see Victoria Ashford. Ms. Ashford isn't accepting visitors. Tell her Marcus Webb is here. Tell her I forgive her. The doorman's eyebrows shot up. He made a call, murmured something into the phone, listened to the response. Take the elevator to the 40th floor. She's expecting you. The ride up took forever. Marcus's heart was pounding. His palms were sweating. He felt like a teenager on a first date, not a 45-year-old man with a daughter and a business and a lifetime of experience. The elevator opened directly into her penthouse. Victoria was standing by the windows, her back to him, looking out at the Miami skyline. She was wearing jeans and a simple white t-shirt. No makeup, no armor. You came, she said without turning around. I got your message. I didn't think you'd respond. I didn't think you'd resign. She turned then. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her face was pale. She looked exhausted and raw and more real than he'd ever seen her. I had to, she said. I couldn't keep living that lie. Couldn't keep pretending to be someone I didn't want to be anymore. What do you want to be? I don't know yet. Someone better. Someone real. She took a step toward him. Someone who doesn't hurt the people she cares about. You care about me. I care about you more than I've cared about anything in 15 years. That's what scared me. That's why I said what I said at the press conference. I was trying to protect myself. And Mia. Victoria's face crumpled. I love that little girl. I love her like she was my own. And I know I have no right to love her, no right to be part of her life, not after what I did. But I do. I love her. Marcus crossed the room, stood in front of her, close enough to see the tears she was fighting to hold back. She loves you too, he said. She asked about you every day, asked why you weren't coming to visit, asked if you were okay. Is she okay? The treatment. The treatment went perfectly. The doctors are optimistic. They say she might be walking within a year. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. Oh God, Marcus, that's everything. It is. And it's because of you. I didn't do anything. I just wrote a check. You did more than that. You came to Overtown. You learned to use chopsticks with a 6-year-old. You bought coloring books because you wanted to pick them yourself. Marcus took her hand. You saw us. Really saw us. That's more than most people ever do. I messed it up. Yeah, you did. I'm sorry. I know. Can you forgive me? Marcus thought about Angela, about the promise he'd made to her, about the life he'd been living half alive, afraid to let anyone in because losing them would hurt too much. He thought about Mia, about her 2 wise words, about second chances and brave people and the way she'd looked at Victoria like she was someone worth keeping. He thought about himself, about the walls he'd built, about the hope he'd tried to crush, about the fact that he was standing in a penthouse overlooking Miami, holding hands with a billionaire who'd given up everything for a chance at something real. Yeah, he said. I can forgive you. Victoria let out a sound that was half sob, half laugh. Really? Really, but I need you to understand something. Anything. Mia comes first, always. Whatever this is, whatever we're becoming, she's my priority. If you can't accept that, I do accept it. I want her to be the priority. I want to be part of a family again. Victoria's voice broke. I've been alone for so long. I forgot what it felt like to belong to someone. You belong to us now, if you want to. I want to, more than anything." Marcus pulled her into his arms, held her while she cried, felt her holding him back, her hands clutching his shirt like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. "This isn't going to be easy," he said into her hair. "The press, the scrutiny, your old life crashing into my new one. I know. We're going to fight. We're going to disagree. We're going to have days when it feels impossible. I know that too. But we're going to try, because that's what you do when something matters. You try even when it's hard." Victoria pulled back, looked at him with eyes that were still wet, but somehow brighter. "My brother used to say something like that. He used to say that the only things worth having are the things worth fighting for. Smart kid. He was." She smiled through her tears. "I think he would have liked you. I think I would have liked him." They stood there in the penthouse she was probably going to have to sell, in a life she was going to have to rebuild from scratch, and for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt alone. "So, what happens now?" Victoria asked. Marcus took her hand, led her toward the elevator. "Now," he said, "we go home. I have a little girl who's been waiting to see you. She wants to see me. She demanded it, said I wasn't allowed to come back without you." Victoria laughed. The sound was watery but real. "I guess I'd better not disappoint her." "No," Marcus said. "I guess you'd better not." The elevator doors closed behind them, and together they went home. Mia screamed when she saw Victoria walk through the door. Not a scared scream, a happy scream, the kind that came from somewhere deep in a child's heart and erupted without warning or filter. "Miss Victoria! Miss Victoria! You came back!" Victoria dropped to her knees as Mia wheeled toward her at full speed. The collision was clumsy and perfect, small arms wrapping around Victoria's neck with surprising strength. "I missed you," Mia said into Victoria's shoulder. "I missed you so much." "I missed you too, sweetheart. More than you know." Marcus stood in the doorway watching them. Watching Victoria hold his daughter like she was something precious. Watching Mia cling to this woman who'd walked away from everything for a chance to be part of their lives. Dorothy appeared from the kitchen dish towel in hand, eyes sharp and assessing. "So," she said, "you're the one." Victoria stood slowly, Mia still holding her hand. "Mrs. Thompson, I've heard a lot about you." "I bet you have. Mia talks about you constantly. Miss Victoria this, Miss Victoria that. I was starting to think you were imaginary." "Grandma," Mia said, scandalized. "She's not imaginary. She's real. She's right here." "I can see that." Dorothy's gaze traveled from Victoria's designer jeans to her simple t-shirt to her makeup-free face. "You look different than you do on TV." "I feel different than I do on TV." Dorothy walked closer, stopping a foot away. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but she had a presence that made her seem much larger. "My daughter loved Marcus, loved him with everything she had, made me promise to look after him if anything happened to her." "Mrs. Thompson." "I'm not finished." Dorothy's voice was firm. "Angela was the best person I ever knew. Generous, kind, full of light. When she died, part of Marcus died with her. Part of all of us died with her." "I understand." "Yeah. Do you understand what it means to love someone so completely that losing them feels like losing yourself?" Victoria's eyes went to Marcus, then back to Dorothy. "Yes, I do. My brother died when I was 15. I spent the next 17 years trying not to feel anything because feeling hurt too much." Dorothy studied her for a long moment. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her because her expression softened. "Angela would want Marcus to be happy," she said. "She'd want Mia to have a mother, a real mother, not just a woman who shows up when it's convenient. I want to be that. I want to be here. For both of them." Wanting isn't enough. You have to choose it, every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I know. Do you? Because from what I hear, you've never had to choose the hard thing in your life. Everything's been handed to you. The money, the power, the fancy boats and fancy cars. What happens when this gets difficult? What happens when Mia has a bad day and screams at you? What happens when Marcus works too much and forgets your anniversary? What happens when the world you came from tries to pull you back? Victoria didn't flinch. Then I stay. I stay, and I fight, and I choose them. Every single time. Dorothy nodded slowly. We'll see. She turned to Marcus. I'm going home. You three have things to figure out. But Marcus... Yeah. Don't mess this up. She kissed Mia's forehead, grabbed her purse, and walked out without another word. The door closed. Silence fell. Then Mia said, Grandma Dorothy likes you. Victoria blinked. She does. She didn't yell at you or call you names or say you were going to ruin everything. That means she likes you. Mia grinned. When Daddy brought his friend Jennifer over last year, Grandma Dorothy called her a gold-digging hussy and made her cry. Mia, Marcus said, we don't repeat what Grandma Dorothy says about people. But it's true, she did cry. I saw it. Victoria looked at Marcus with raised eyebrows. Jennifer. It was one date. She wanted to be on a reality show. Thought dating a single dad with a sick kid would be good for her brand. Ah. Grandma Dorothy figured it out in about 30 seconds. She seems very perceptive. She's terrifying is what she is. But Marcus was smiling. Come on, I'll give you the tour. The tour took approximately 3 minutes. Victoria had known the house was small, had seen it from outside, calculated the square footage, compared it to the closet in her penthouse that was probably larger. But being inside was different. Being inside meant seeing the water stain on the ceiling that Marcus hadn't gotten around to fixing, the carpet that was worn thin in the hallway, the kitchen appliances that looked like they'd been purchased during the Clinton administration. It also meant seeing the photos on every wall. Angela and Marcus on their wedding day. Mia as a baby, impossibly tiny, hooked up to machines in a NICU. The three of them at what looked like a birthday party, Angela's smile so bright it hurt to look at. She was beautiful, Victoria said, stopping in front of a photo of Angela alone, laughing at something off camera. She was everything. Marcus's voice was soft. I used to think I'd never love anyone the way I loved her. Thought that kind of love only happened once in a lifetime. And now, he took her hand. Now I think love isn't a fixed amount. It's not like you use it up and there's nothing left. It grows, changes, finds new people to hold on to. That's very poetic for a marine mechanic. I read sometimes, when Mia's asleep. Victoria laughed, a real laugh surprised out of her. What do you read? Whatever's at the library. They have a good selection. Last month I finished a book about the history of shipping routes in the Pacific. That sounds boring. I was going to say relevant to my former career. Former. Marcus said the word like he was testing it. That's still strange to hear. It's strange to say. I've been running Ashford Maritime since I was 28 years old. It's the only job I've ever had, the only identity I've ever known. What are you going to do now? Victoria looked around the small living room, at Mia's coloring books stacked on the coffee table, at the therapy equipment in the corner, at this life that was so different from anything she'd ever experienced. I don't know, she said. For the first time in my life, I have no idea what comes next. And honestly, it's terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. Welcome to how the rest of us live. Is this where you tell me I've been spoiled and privileged and have no idea how good I had it? No. Marcus pulled her close. This is where I tell you that whatever comes next, we figure it out together. The first week was harder than Victoria expected. She moved out of her penthouse within days of her resignation. Couldn't stand being there anymore, surrounded by all the things money had bought and none of the things that mattered. She rented a small apartment in Overtown, 3 blocks from Marcus's house. It had one bedroom, a kitchen the size of a postage stamp, and neighbors who played music until 2 a.m. She loved it. "You know," Marcus said, standing in her doorway on the third day, "you could have gotten something nicer. You've still got money. I wanted to be close to you, to Mia. There are nicer apartments close to us." I didn't want nicer. I wanted real. Marcus looked around the apartment, at the second-hand furniture she'd bought from a thrift store, at the dishes that didn't match, at the life she was building from scratch. "You're serious about this?" "I told you I was." "I know. I keep waiting for you to change your mind, to realize this isn't what you want." Victoria walked to him, took his face in her hands. "I spent 32 years living someone else's dream, following someone else's plan, being someone else's daughter, someone else's CEO, someone else's failure. This is the first time I've ever chosen something for myself." She kissed him softly. "I'm not changing my mind." Marcus's arms wrapped around her, held her tight. "Okay," he said into her hair. "Okay." The second week brought complications. Victoria's mother showed up unannounced, stepping out of a town car in front of Marcus's house like she was visiting a zoo exhibit. "Victoria, what is this place?" "Hello, Mother. Nice to see you too." "Don't be flippant. I've been calling for days. Your assistant said you no longer have an assistant. The doorman at your building said you moved out. Richard Harrington says you've lost your mind." Her mother's eyes swept over the modest house, the overgrown lawn, the old Toyota in the driveway. "I'm beginning to think he's right." "Mother." The front door opened. Mia wheeled out grinning. "Miss Victoria, Daddy said you were here. Who's the fancy lady?" Victoria's mother froze. Her face went through several expressions. Shock, confusion. Something that might have been fear. "This is Mia," Victoria said. "Mia, this is my mother, Catherine Ashford." Mia studied Catherine with those two perceptive eyes. "You look like Miss Victoria, but sadder." Catherine's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Excuse me." "Miss Victoria used to be sad too, but she's getting better. Maybe you can get better too." Victoria had never seen her mother speechless. It was almost worth the awkwardness of this entire situation. "Mia, sweetheart, why don't you go inside? Tell your dad I'll be there in a minute." "Okay. Bye, Miss Victoria's mom. I hope you feel better soon." Mia wheeled back inside, humming to herself. Catherine turned to Victoria. Her face was pale. "That child, is she—" "Her name is Mia. She has spinal muscular atrophy. She's 6 years old and she's the bravest person I've ever met." "And her father, the mechanic. His name is Marcus. He's a Navy veteran. He lost his wife in childbirth. He spent the last 6 years dedicating every moment of his life to keeping his daughter alive and happy." "Victoria, this is insane. You gave up everything, the company, your reputation, your future for some stranger you met on a boat." "He's not a stranger. He's the man I love." The words hung in the air. Victoria hadn't said them before, hadn't even let herself think them. But they were true. She knew it the moment they left her mouth. Catherine's face hardened. "Love? You said you loved Daniel too. Look how that turned out." "Daniel was a mistake. I knew he was a mistake before I married him. I did it anyway because it was expected, because it was convenient, because I thought that was what love looked like, a business arrangement dressed up in white lace. And this is different. This is completely different. Marcus doesn't want my money. He doesn't want my connections. He doesn't want anything except for me to be present, to show up, to try." Victoria's voice cracked. "He sees me, Mother, not the CEO, not the heiress. Me, the real me, underneath all the armor." Catherine was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer. "David used to say something similar." Victoria went still. Her mother never talked about David. Never. It was a rule so absolute, it had become part of the family's DNA. What? Your brother. Before he died, he told me I didn't see the real him, that I only saw what I wanted him to be. Catherine's eyes were wet. I didn't understand what he meant. Not then. Maybe not ever. Mother. I failed him, Victoria. I was so focused on expectations and appearances that I didn't notice he was sick, didn't notice he was struggling. By the time I realized something was wrong, it was too late. That wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? Catherine laughed bitterly. I spent so much time trying to make him into what I thought he should be that I never learned who he actually was. And then he was gone, and all I had left were regrets. Victoria didn't know what to say. Didn't know this version of her mother existed. I don't want to make the same mistake with you, Catherine said. I don't understand this. I don't understand him. I don't understand any of it. But if this is what makes you happy, it does. It really does. Catherine nodded slowly. Then I'll try. I can't promise I'll succeed, but I'll try. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't acceptance. But it was something, a crack in armor that Victoria had never seen before. Thank you, Victoria said. Don't thank me yet. I still think you've lost your mind. But there was a hint of a smile on Catherine's face. That child, Mia. She's rather extraordinary, isn't she? She's the best person I know. She reminds me of David, the way she speaks her mind without filters. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. She reminds me of him too. Catherine reached out, touched Victoria's face, a gesture so rare and unexpected that Victoria almost flinched. Be happy, Catherine said. Whatever that looks like, wherever it takes you, be happy. She got back in her town car and drove away without another word. Victoria stood on the sidewalk watching the car disappear, feeling something shift inside her chest. Healing. That's what it felt like. Healing. The third week brought progress. Mia's doctors called with the first round of results from the gene therapy. The treatment was working. Her motor neurons were responding. The progression of the disease had halted. There's more, Doctor, Patterson said over the phone, her voice cautious but hopeful. We're seeing signs of improvement in her muscle function. It's early and I don't want to promise anything, but... But what? Marcus gripped the phone so hard his knuckles went white. But if this continues, Mia might be able to walk with assistance within the next year, possibly without assistance eventually. Marcus couldn't speak. The phone slipped from his hand, clattered to the floor. Victoria picked it up. Dr. Patterson, we'll call you back. She hung up and wrapped her arms around Marcus. He was shaking, crying, making sounds that seemed pulled from somewhere deep and primal. She's going to be okay, he kept saying. She's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. She is. She's going to be okay. They told Mia together. She was in her room, coloring in one of the books Victoria had bought, humming a song neither of them recognized. Baby girl, Marcus said, kneeling beside her wheelchair. The doctors called. About my medicine. Yeah, about your medicine. Is it working? Am I getting stronger? Marcus looked at Victoria. She nodded. Yeah, sweetheart, it's working. The doctors say you might be able to walk someday. Mia was quiet, too quiet. Her coloring stopped. Walk? Her voice was small, like the other kids. Maybe. We don't know for sure yet. But maybe. Like Mommy could walk right in the pictures, she's always standing up. Marcus's breath caught. Yeah, baby. Mommy could walk. If I can walk, do you think... Mia hesitated. Do you think she'd be proud of me? Victoria felt her heart crack open. Oh, sweetheart. She knelt beside Marcus, taking Mia's hand. Your mommy is already proud of you. She's been proud of you every single day since you were born. Walking or not walking doesn't change that. Really? Really? You're the bravest, strongest, most amazing girl in the whole world. Anyone would be proud to be your mom." Mia looked at her, those two wise eyes seeing everything. "Are you proud of me, like a mom?" Victoria's throat closed. She looked at Marcus. His eyes were wet, but he was nodding. "Yes," Victoria said. "I'm proud of you like a mom. If that's okay with you." Mia threw her arms around Victoria's neck. "I wished for you," she whispered. "Every night before I went to sleep. I wished for someone to be my other mommy. And then you came." Victoria held her, held this little girl who'd been through so much, who'd lost so much, who still believed in wishes and second chances and the possibility of happy endings. "I'm here now," Victoria said. "I'm not going anywhere. Promise, promise. Pinky promise." Victoria held out her pinky. Mia wrapped hers around it. "Pinky promise." The fourth week brought a surprise. Victoria was at Marcus's shop learning how to change oil on a boat engine when a familiar car pulled into the driveway. Richard Harrington, the man who'd been her mentor, her advisor, her connection to her father's legacy. "Richard." Victoria wiped her hands on a rag. "What are you doing here?" "I came to talk." His eyes swept over the shop, the boats, the tools. "This is different than I expected." "Did you expect something fancier?" "I expected something that made sense." Richard walked closer. "Victoria, the board is in chaos. Patricia is competent, but she's not you. The Singapore deal fell through. Stock prices are dropping. Everything your father built is falling apart." "That's not my problem anymore." "Of course it's your problem. It's your family's company. Your name is on the building." "Then take my name off the building." Richard stared at her. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious about anything." Victoria looked around the shop. At the boats she'd helped repair. At the life she was building. "This is what I want, Richard. This is who I want to be. A mechanic's girlfriend, a charity case's mother." Victoria's spine went rigid. "Be very careful what you say next." "I'm trying to help you, Victoria. You're making a mistake. A massive, irreversible mistake that you'll regret for the rest of your life. The only mistake I ever made was spending 32 years living someone else's dream." Victoria stepped closer, her voice low and fierce. "I was miserable, Richard. Rich and powerful and absolutely miserable. I had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. And now you have what love, happiness. Those things don't pay the bills. I have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of my life. I don't need the company. I don't need the board. I don't need any of it." "What about your father's legacy?" "My father's legacy isn't a company. It's not stock prices or profit margins or trade deals." Victoria thought about the photo in Marcus's hallway, about Angela's smile, about Mia's drawings of hearts with wings. "My father's legacy is teaching me to work hard and care about people and never give up on the things that matter. I'm honoring that legacy right now, just not in the way you want me to." Richard was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, older, tired. "I told your father once that you were going to be extraordinary." He smiled and said, "I know. That's what terrifies me." He said a lot of things about you, about how proud he was, about how worried he was that you'd sacrifice your happiness for the company the way he did." Richard shook his head. "I didn't understand what he meant. Not until now." "What changed?" "I looked at you just now defending this life you've chosen, defending these people you love. You looked more alive than you ever did in a boardroom." Victoria felt something loosen in her chest. "That's because I am more alive." "I can see that." "Show." Richard reached into his pocket, pulled out an envelope. "This is from your father's estate. A letter he wrote before he died. He asked me to give it to you when you were ready. Ready for what? He didn't say, just said I'd know when the time came. Richard pressed the envelope into her hands. I think this is the time. He turned and walked back to his car without another word. Victoria stood in the shop holding the letter, her heart pounding. Her father's handwriting. Her father's words. Something he'd wanted her to have, but only when she was ready. She opened the envelope with trembling fingers. My darling Victoria, if you're reading this, it means Richard finally decided you were ready. I told him not to give it to you until you'd learned to be happy. Truly happy, not the performance of happiness we Ashfords are so good at. I have so many regrets. I worked too hard. Missed too much. Lost your brother before I really knew him. Lost myself somewhere between the boardroom and the bank account. I don't want that for you. The company was never supposed to be your prison. It was supposed to be your foundation, something to build on, not something to trap you. If it's become a cage, break free. Find what makes you happy. Find people who love you for who you are, not what you can do for them. Your mother won't understand. The board won't understand. That's okay. They don't need to. The only person who needs to understand is you. I love you. I've always loved you. I loved you when you were 3 years old and demanded to steer the ship. I loved you when you were 15 and told me David's death was my fault. I loved you even when you couldn't love yourself. Be happy, my darling. Whatever that looks like, wherever it takes you. Be happy. All my love. Dad. Victoria read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it carefully, pressed it against her heart, and cried. Marcus found her like that an hour later, sitting on the floor of the shop, tears streaming down her face, clutching a piece of paper, like it was the most precious thing in the world. He didn't ask questions, just sat down beside her, wrapped his arm around her shoulders, and held on. He knew, Victoria said finally. My father. He knew I wasn't happy. He wanted me to break free. Sounds like a good man. He was. He wasn't perfect, but he was good. And he loved me. She looked at Marcus, at this man who'd given her a second chance at life. He would have liked you. You think so? I know so. He would have looked at you and seen everything he wished he could have been. A father who put his daughter first. A man who chose love over money. Marcus kissed her forehead. Then I'll try to live up to that. You already have. They sat there in the shop that smelled like grease and salt water, holding on to each other, and Victoria felt something she'd never felt before. Peace. Complete, absolute, unshakable peace. 6 months changed everything. Victoria sold her penthouse and used the money to buy a small house 2 doors down from Marcus. Close enough to be together. Far enough to give Mia time to adjust. Mia adjusted faster than anyone expected. Miss Victoria, are you staying for dinner again? If that's okay with you. It's always okay with me. Daddy makes better food when you're here. When you're not here, he just makes spaghetti every single night. I like spaghetti, Marcus protested from the kitchen. Nobody likes spaghetti that much, Daddy. Victoria laughed. These moments, the small, ordinary, unremarkable moments, had become the foundation of her new life. No board meetings, no press conferences, no pretending to be someone she wasn't. Just dinner with the people she loved. Can I help with anything? Victoria called out. You can set the table. Mia, show her where the good plates are. The good plates are the ones without chips, Mia explained seriously. Daddy dropped the other ones. I didn't drop them. They fell. That's not how gravity works, Daddy. Victoria found the plates, 3 without chips, 1 with a small crack that Mia had decorated with butterfly stickers, and set the table while Marcus finished cooking. This was her life now. Mismatched dishes and butterfly stickers, and a little girl who corrected her father's understanding of physics. She wouldn't trade it for anything. The first time Mia stood up without her wheelchair, Victoria cried so hard she couldn't breathe. It happened on a Tuesday morning, 3 months after the gene therapy. Mia had been doing physical therapy twice a week, rebuilding muscles that had never worked properly, learning to trust a body that had always betrayed her. Victoria was there for the session. Had been there for every session since she and Marcus had become official. The physical therapist, a young woman named Dr. Chen, had become like family. "Okay, Mia, we're going to try something new today. I want you to hold on to the bars and see if you can push yourself up." Mia's face scrunched with concentration. Like standing, just for a second. If it's too hard, we stop." "It won't be too hard. I'm the strongest person my daddy knows." Victoria watched from the observation window, her hand pressed against the glass. Marcus stood beside her, his jaw tight with hope and fear. Mia gripped the parallel bars, took a breath, pushed, and stood. Her legs shook. Her face went red with effort. But she was standing, on her own 2 feet, for the first time in her life. "I'm doing it!" Mia screamed. "I'm doing it! Look at me! I'm standing up!" Victoria's knees gave out. She would have hit the floor if Marcus hadn't caught her. "She's standing," Victoria whispered. "Marcus, she's standing." "I know." His voice was thick with tears. "I know." They held each other and watched through the glass as Mia stood for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. When she finally sat back down, she was grinning so hard her face might have split open. "Did you see that?" she yelled toward the window. "Did you see I stood up like a regular kid? We saw baby girl." Marcus's voice cracked. "We saw everything." Dr. Chen opened the door, her own eyes wet. "I think someone deserves a celebration." They went for ice cream after. Mia got 3 scoops with extra sprinkles and ate every bite. She talked the entire time about how standing felt, about how her legs were shaky, but strong, about how she was going to practice every day until she could walk. "And then I'm going to run," she declared. "I'm going to run so fast nobody can catch me." "Where are you going to run to?" Victoria asked. Mia thought about it. "Everywhere. I'm going to run everywhere and see everything and do all the stuff I couldn't do before." "That sounds like a good plan." "Miss Victoria." "Yeah, sweetheart. Thank you for the medicine, for making me stronger." Mia's eyes were serious now, older than her 6 years. "I know it cost a lot of money. Daddy said it cost more money than our house." "It was worth every penny." "But why? You didn't even know me when you paid for it. You could have spent that money on boats or fancy dresses or whatever rich people buy." Victoria looked at Marcus. He was watching her with soft eyes, waiting to see what she would say. "Because," Victoria said slowly, "sometimes you meet people who change your life. People who show you what really matters. Your daddy did that for me. He reminded me that money isn't worth anything if you don't use it to help people. Daddy's smart like that. He really is. Are you going to marry him?" The question came out of nowhere, the way only a child's questions could. Victoria choked on her ice cream. "Mia," Marcus said, his face going red. "That's not..." "What?" "It's a good question. You love each other. That's what people do when they love each other. They get married." "It's more complicated than that, sweetheart." "Why, what's complicated about it?" Mia crossed her arms. "You love Miss Victoria. She loves you. You both love me. We're already like a family. Why not make it official?" Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Victoria helplessly. Victoria was laughing. She couldn't help it. This little girl had just asked the question neither of them had been brave enough to address. "You know what, Mia? You're absolutely right." Victoria reached across the table, took Marcus's hand. "There's nothing complicated about it." Marcus stared at her. "Victoria, is that a proposal?" Mia asked excitedly. "Are you proposing to my daddy right now?" "I think I am." Victoria squeezed Marcus's hand. "What do you say? Want to make it official?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Long enough that Victoria's heart started pounding, started worrying she'd misread everything. Then he smiled. That slow, rare smile that transformed his whole face. "I was going to ask you," he said. "Had a whole plan. Dinner at a nice restaurant, candles, maybe some music." "This is better," Victoria said. "This is us. Ice cream and sticky fingers and a 6-year-old playing matchmaker." "Yeah." Marcus lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. "This is perfect." "Is that a yes?" Mia shouted. "Daddy, is that a yes?" "That's a yes, baby girl." Mia screamed so loud, the entire ice cream shop turned to stare. She didn't care. She was out of her wheelchair, pulling herself up on the table, throwing her arms around both of them at once. "I'm going to have a mom," she said into Victoria's shoulder. "A real mom. I wished for this. I wished for this every single night, and it came true." Victoria held her tight, held Marcus tight. Let the tears fall without shame. "We're a family now," she whispered. "A real family." "We were always a family," Marcus said. "We're just making it official." They got married on a Saturday in October. Not in a church, not in a fancy venue. In Marcus's backyard with Christmas lights strung between the trees and folding chairs borrowed from the neighbors. Victoria wore a simple white dress she'd found at a consignment shop. No designer labels, no 6-figure price tag, just something that made her feel beautiful. Mia was the flower girl. She walked on her own 2 feet down the makeshift aisle, scattering rose petals with every step. It was the first time she'd walked more than a few yards, and by the end she was trembling with exhaustion, but she made it. She made it. Dorothy cried the entire ceremony. Catherine sat in the front row looking uncomfortable, but present, which was more than Victoria had expected. The officiant was a retired Navy chaplain Marcus had served with. He kept the ceremony short and simple the way they'd asked. "Victoria, do you take Marcus to be your husband? To love him, comfort him, honor, and keep him in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live?" "I do." "Marcus, do you take Victoria to be your wife? To love her, comfort her, honor, and keep her in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife." The chaplain grinned. "You may kiss the bride." Marcus kissed her, and the small crowd erupted in cheers, and Mia yelled, "Finally!" loud enough to be heard 3 blocks away. The reception was potluck. Neighbors brought casseroles. Dorothy made a cake that was lopsided but delicious. Someone set up a speaker and played music from a decade ago, and people danced on the patchy grass like it was a ballroom. Victoria danced with Marcus, danced with Mia holding her hands while the little girl moved her feet, carefully determined to keep standing. Danced with Dorothy, who whispered in her ear, "Angela would have loved you." "You think so?" "I know so. She always said Marcus needed someone who could match his stubbornness. You're the first person I've met who can." "I'll take that as a compliment." It was meant as one. Later, after most of the guests had left, Victoria found herself standing alone by the fence, looking up at the stars. Marcus found her there, 2 bottles of beer in hand. "You okay?" "Better than okay." She took the beer, clinked it against his. "I was just thinking about how different my life is now. A year ago, I was standing on a yacht throwing champagne glasses and making cruel jokes about strangers. To be fair, that stranger was pretty impressive. Fixed your engine in 40 minutes. 45. "Who's counting?" Victoria laughed. "I was so lost, Marcus. So completely lost. I had everything money could buy and nothing that mattered. And then you showed up and changed everything." "You changed everything too. You just don't see it." "What do you mean?" Marcus set down his beer, took her hands in his. "When Angela died, I stopped believing in the future. Stopped believing that anything good could happen. I was just surviving day to day, keeping Mia alive, waiting for the other shoe to drop." His voice was rough. "You gave me hope again. You showed me that it's possible to lose everything and still find something worth living for. Marcus, I love you, Victoria. Not because you paid for Mia's treatment, not because you're beautiful or smart or any of that. I love you because you saw me. Really saw me. Saw all the broken parts and decided I was worth keeping anyway. Victoria felt tears sliding down her cheeks. You're not broken. Neither are you. Not anymore. He kissed her, and the stars wheeled overhead, and somewhere inside the house, Mia was laughing at something Dorothy had said. This was her life now. This imperfect, beautiful, unexpected life. She wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. A year after the wedding, Victoria had an idea. I want to start a foundation, she told Marcus over breakfast. Something that helps families like yours. Families with sick kids who can't afford treatment. Marcus looked up from his coffee. That's a big undertaking. I know, but I have the money, I have the connections, and I have you. Victoria reached across the table, touched his hand. Think about what we went through. Think about how close Mia came to not getting the help she needed. How many other families are in that same situation right now? How many kids are going to die because their parents can't afford treatment? Too many. Exactly. And I can change that. We can change that. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his engineer's brain turning the problem over. You'd need staff, he said finally. Lawyers, accountants, medical advisors. You'd need a board. I'd need you. Victoria squeezed his hand. I can't do this alone. I need someone who understands what these families are going through. Someone who can look them in the eye and say, I know how hard this is, and actually mean it. I'm not exactly qualified for nonprofit work. You're more qualified than anyone I know. You've lived it. You've survived it. That matters more than any degree. Marcus looked at Mia, who was in the living room doing her morning physical therapy exercises. She was walking now. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but walking. On her own 2 feet, by herself. Okay, he said. Let's do it. They called it the Rising Foundation. Mia came up with the name. Because that's what people do when they get knocked down, she explained. They rise back up, like me. I got knocked down, and I'm rising. The logo was a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. Also, Mia's idea. Caterpillars turn into butterflies, she said. That's what the foundation does. It helps people transform into something beautiful. Victoria couldn't argue with that logic. The first year was hard. Harder than Victoria expected. There were legal battles, funding challenges, bureaucratic nightmares that made corporate politics look simple. But there were also victories. A little boy in Texas who got a bone marrow transplant. A teenage girl in Ohio who received a prosthetic leg. Twin sisters in Florida who got the gene therapy that saved their lives. Each success story was a reminder of why they'd started. Each family they helped was proof that money could be a force for good, not just a measure of status. 2 years after its founding, the Rising Foundation had helped over 100 families. Victoria did interviews, gave speeches, became the face of a movement she'd never expected to lead. You're famous again, Marcus said one evening watching her on the news. Different kind of famous. Better kind. Much better. Mia was 8 now. She could run not fast, not gracefully, but run. She'd started school for the first time, making friends, getting into trouble, being a normal kid in all the ways that mattered. She still had challenges. Still got tired faster than other children. Still needed physical therapy twice a week. But she was alive. She was thriving. She was everything Angela had dreamed she could be. Daddy, Mia said one evening, bursting into the kitchen where Marcus and Victoria were cooking dinner. Yeah, baby girl. I have a question. For both of you. Victoria turned from the stove. What's up, sweetheart? Mia took a breath, the kind of breath that meant something big was coming. Can I call you Mom? Victoria's hand froze on the spatula. Marcus went still. What brought this on? Marcus asked carefully. All my friends at school have moms, and when they ask about my mom, I say I have Miss Victoria, But that sounds weird. Like she's my teacher or something. But she's not my teacher. She's my mom. She does all the mom stuff. She makes me breakfast and helps with homework and tells me to clean my room and hugs me when I'm sad. Mia's voice got smaller. I want to call her mom. Like a real family. Victoria couldn't speak. Her throat was closed. Her eyes were burning. Marcus looked at her. Victoria, what do you think? I think... Victoria's voice cracked. She knelt down, bringing herself to Mia's level. I think I would be honored. I think nothing would make me happier. Mia's face lit up. Really? Really? But only if you're sure. Your other mom, Angela, she'll always be your mom too. You can have both of us. I know. Mia's voice was solemn. Daddy showed me pictures, told me stories. I know Mommy Angela loved me, but she's in heaven now. And you're here. She reached out, touched Victoria's face. You're my earth mom. She's my heaven mom. I have two moms. That makes me special. Victoria pulled her into a hug, held her so tight she probably couldn't breathe. You are special, Victoria whispered. You're the most special person I've ever known. I know, Mia giggled. That's what you always say? Because it's always true. From that day on, Mia called her mom. Every time she said it, Victoria felt her heart grow a little larger. Felt the hole that David's death had left fill in a little more. Felt herself becoming the person she was always meant to be. Not Victoria Ashford CEO. Not Victoria Ashford billionaire heiress. Just mom. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. The 5-year anniversary of the Rising Foundation fell on a Saturday in June. They held a gala nothing like the corporate events Victoria used to attend. This one was at a community center in Overtown. The decorations were handmade by the families they'd helped. The food was catered by local restaurants, not 5-star chefs. And the guest of honor was Mia. She was 10 now. Tall for her age, with her father's stubborn chin and her mother's warm eyes, both her mothers somehow. She walked with a slight limp that she'd never fully lose, but she walked. She ran. She danced. Tonight, she was going to give a speech. You nervous? Victoria asked, helping Mia adjust her dress in the bathroom. A little. There's a lot of people out there. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I want to. Mia looked at her reflection at the young woman she was becoming. These people need to hear that it gets better, that there's hope, that miracles happen. You're the miracle baby. You know that, right? You made the miracle possible. Mia turned to face her. You and Daddy and the doctors and everyone who believed in me. I'm just the proof that it works. Victoria felt tears threatening. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just weren't paying attention. Victoria laughed and hugged her. I love you. I love you too, Mom. The speech was perfect. Mia stood at the podium, looking out at a room full of families, some who'd been helped by the foundation, some who were still waiting, all of them hoping. 5 years ago, Mia said, her voice steady, I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do any of the things that other kids did without thinking. My daddy worked 3 jobs to pay for my medicine. My grandma prayed every night for a miracle. And I just wanted to run. That's all. I wanted to run like the other kids. She paused. The room was silent. Then my mom came along. Not my first mom, she's in heaven watching over me. My second mom, Victoria. Mia looked at Victoria, smiled. She was kinda mean when I first met her. Really bossy. Threw champagne glasses at people. The room laughed. Victoria covered her face with her hands. But she changed. She met my daddy, and she met me, and she realized that being rich doesn't mean anything if you don't use it to help people. So she paid for my medicine. She started this foundation. She gave me a chance to run. Mia stepped out from behind the podium, walked to the center of the stage, and then slowly, deliberately, she began to run. Not fast, not graceful, but running. Across the stage and back, her legs moving, her arms pumping, her face alive with joy. The room erupted in applause. Mia stopped breathing hard, grinning. "That's what hope looks like," she said. "That's what happens when people believe in you, when they give you a chance, when they see the butterfly inside the caterpillar." She looked at Marcus and Victoria, sitting in the front row holding hands. "My daddy taught me that broken things can be fixed. My mom taught me that it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. And both of them taught me that love isn't about blood or money or where you come from. Love is about showing up every day, even when it's hard." Mia walked back to the podium, took a breath. "Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for believing in the Rising Foundation. And thank you for believing in kids like me. We might start out broken, but with enough love, enough help, enough hope, we can learn to fly." She stepped back from the microphone. The room was on its feet, applauding, crying, celebrating. Victoria couldn't see through her tears, could barely breathe through the tightness in her chest. Marcus squeezed her hand. "We did good," he said. "We did. Angela would be proud. So would David." They stood together watching their daughter take her bows, and Victoria felt something settle into place. Something that had been searching for a home for 30 years. Peace, belonging, purpose, family. After the gala, they went home. Not to Victoria's old penthouse long since sold. Not to Marcus's cramped house in Overtown, which they'd outgrown 2 years ago. To a modest 4-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood with a backyard big enough for Mia to run in and a garage where Marcus still tinkered with engines. Home. Mia fell asleep in the car, exhausted from the excitement. Marcus carried her inside, tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead. Victoria watched from the doorway. "She was incredible tonight," she said. "She's incredible every night." Marcus joined her, slipping his arm around her waist. "But yeah, tonight was something special." They walked to the living room, collapsed onto the couch, let the silence settle around them. "Do you ever think about it?" Victoria asked. "The night we met." "Sometimes." "I was so awful, so cruel. I can't believe you agreed to that ridiculous bet." "It wasn't ridiculous. You said you'd fund Mia's surgery if I fixed the engine. I fixed the engine." "That's not what I said. I said I'd make you a millionaire." Marcus laughed. "Close enough." "I was joking, you know. I never thought you'd actually do it." "I know. So why did you agree?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Because I saw something in you. Under all the armor and the attitude. I saw someone who was hurting. Someone who needed to believe that people could be good. You saw all that in 3 seconds. I'm observant." Victoria turned to face him. This man who'd fixed her engine and her heart with the same patient hands. Who'd given her a daughter and a purpose and a life worth living. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." "No, I mean..." Victoria struggled for words. "I mean that before I met you, I didn't know what love was. I thought it was transactions and arrangements and mutual benefit. I thought it was something you did to not be alone. And now I know that love is showing up. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." She took his hand, pressed it against her heart. "You taught me that. You and Mia. You taught me how to be human again." Marcus pulled her close. Held her the way he'd held her that first night on the yacht, when she'd broken down and let someone see her for the first time in 15 years. "You were always human," he said. "You just forgot for a while." They sat there in their modest living room, in their ordinary house, in their extraordinary life, and let the silence hold them. Outside, the Miami night was warm and quiet. Stars wheeled overhead. Somewhere a dog barked. Inside, Mia slept with dreams of running. Dorothy would visit tomorrow. Catherine would call on Sunday. The foundation had a board meeting on Monday. Life went on the way life did. But right now, right here, there was only this. Two people who'd found each other against impossible odds. Two people who'd built something beautiful from the wreckage of their pasts. Two people who'd learned that the best things in life weren't the things you could buy. They were the things you built, the things you fought for, the things you showed up for day after day, year after year, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Victoria closed her eyes and listened to Marcus's heartbeat. Strong and steady. Like him. Like the life they'd built together. She thought about the woman she used to be. The Ice Queen. The CEO. The woman who threw champagne glasses and mocked strangers and believed that money was the answer to everything. That woman was gone. In her place was someone new. Someone better. Someone who'd learned that the measure of a life wasn't what you accumulated, but what you gave away. Marcus, yeah. Thank you for taking that bet, for believing in me when I didn't deserve it, for giving me a chance to become someone worth believing in. Marcus kissed the top of her head. Thank you for fixing my engine, he said, and for letting me fix yours. Victoria smiled, the first smile she'd smiled in years that reached all the way to her soul. Deal, she whispered. And it was. It was the best deal either of them had ever made. The end.